The Third Man was released in 1949, directed by Carol Reed, and stars Joseph Cotten, Alida Valli, Trevor Howard, and Orson Welles. It follows an American novelist, Holly Martins, who travels to post-World War II Vienna to accept a job offered to him by his childhood friend, Harry Lime. Upon arrival, he is told his friend has recently died. However, when the story of Lime's death doesn't seem to add up, Martins launches his own investigation into what happened that day, determined to find the elusive Third Man who was present at the time of Lime's death. Now, I have to say that film noir is another genre that I just absolutely love, and The Third Man is one of the most renowned of the genre. I think it has some of the most famous images, so many classic moments, and there's just so many great things about this movie, from the whole cast to the setting, the photography, lighting, the script. I could go on and on. You can really understand while watching it why this movie is still being viewed and talked about today. It's a true classic. Just starting with the setting. The movie is shot on location in Vienna, and you really get the sense that the city is still very much recovering from the devastation of World War II. And in that way, this movie is kind of an interesting time capsule, in that you see the mountains of rubble on the street corners and the bombed out buildings, and the film doesn't shy away from that. It's very much set in amongst that world, and it kind of has as much of the film is set at night. Just seeing this destroyed city really kind of gives an eerie feel to the film, that watching this mystery play out in front of that, it really just ties so well together. What else is interesting is that, as it was in real life, the film shows how the city had been divided up between the British, the Americans, the French, and the Russians, and the policing of the city was handled by those four countries' military police. As the film is essentially a murder mystery of sorts, just seeing how these four countries are working together or having difficulty working together, you really can see that getting anything solved or anything done was so difficult due to everything kind of being a tangled mess of bureaucracy. Now, Joseph Cotten stars as Holly Martins, and I just have to say that he is an actor I absolutely love. I think he is such an underrated actor. This and Citizen Kane are probably two of his most famous films, and he's been overshadowed over the years due to the fact that Orson Welles is kind of the focal point and what people have remembered most. I mean, rightfully with Citizen Kane, but with The Third Man, it's very much Joseph Cotten's movie, and he is the focus of it, and I think he is just a fantastic actor. He's so believable, and you really feel for him. He has a great everyman quality, and you can just see his frustration as he's trying to get to the bottom of what's happened to his friend. Alida Valli stars as Harry Lime's girlfriend, and essentially becomes Martin's only ally in the city, as the police want him out of there. They don't want him sticking his nose where it doesn't belong, and she is still very much in mourning over Harry Lime's death. But you can see throughout the movie why Holly Martins is falling for her. They have a great chemistry, despite obviously she is still very much in love with Harry Lime. Trevor Howard plays Major Calloway, one of the higher ranking British officers in the military police in the city. He is also a great foil for Joseph Cotten, and their scenes together are very interesting, and their banter back and forth as he's gently and then not so gently trying to nudge Joseph Cotten out of the city, but he just won't give up. And I thought that they had a good chemistry together as well. Interestingly, Bernard Lee plays Major Calloway's underling, another military policeman, and he, of course, would go on to play M in the first 11, I think, of the James Bond films. And it was just interesting seeing him there. He's kind of one of the comedic elements of the movie. He's a fan of Holly Martin's Western novels that he writes, and enjoys referencing them and the different novels and parts of them that he enjoyed. And finally, there is Orson Welles. He shows up only quite late in the film, and again, compared to Joseph Cotten, the main character, he has relatively little screen time, but he makes a huge impact on the movie. He's a very fascinating character. They give him great dialogue to deliver, and I think there's a reason why he is the main element that people remember from this movie. His introduction is just wonderful. There is a nice build of suspense from the use of the camera work and the lighting, and finally when his face is revealed and he gives that perfect little smile at Joseph Cotten, it's just such a great break in the tension that's been building over the last couple minutes. And again, a classic moment from a movie that has so many already. The other most memorable thing about this movie is, of course, the score, which is played by Anton Karas on the zither. And this was only the second time I've seen this movie. I had seen it once before when I was much younger, so it was quite a few years ago, and I remembered three things about this movie, and one of those is that theme. The third man theme gets stuck in your head very quickly, and it's such an interesting sound. The whole score is. It's so interesting and unusual, very different from what other movies of the time were doing. Viewing the film this time, I almost wondered if you were to just pluck one scene out of the movie and just view it on its own with that score playing, if it would seem really out of place, just disconnected from the rest of the movie and no other knowledge of what else was going on. And it might. It is such an odd sound, but at the same time, it's perfect. It has such an eccentric quality to it, and that goes so well with, there's so many side characters in the movie that are also quite quirky and have their little eccentricities about them, and just that music with those faces and those characters, just everything about it kind of has a surreal quality to it, which is just so interesting and really draws you in. And again, when you have that very believable character played by Joseph Cotten, it really, you can feel for him being in the middle of this strange world surrounded by these strange people. The cinematography in this film is just beautiful. As I said, much of the movie is set at night, and I was recently reading Joseph Cotten's autobiography, Vanity Will Get You Somewhere, and he mentions in there the extremely long periods of time that it would take for them to set up the lighting for those shots, and the amount of downtime that he and the other actors had just waiting for them to get it all set. And it really, it paid off. There are just so many wide, expansive shots of the streets and just the wet cobblestones and the fog, and it's just such a great look for the movie. And just, again, I've mentioned atmosphere earlier in this review, and it really adds to that so much, and it has such a great feel of mystery and intrigue. There's also a heavy use of Dutch angles in the movie, and I feel it just really contributes to the feel of kind of an off-kilter adventure that Holly Martins is on, and just, again, with the music, the characters, these strange angles and shots, it just all works so well together and has a feel unlike anything else that I've ever seen. There are so many famous scenes in this movie, one of which, of course, is the confrontation between Joseph Cotten and Orson Welles on the Ferris wheel, and just the tension in that scene building as they go higher and higher, and that monologue that Orson Welles delivers. Just the whole scene really solidifies who that character is on the inside, both for our minds, the audience, and also for Joseph Cotten's character. Just the realization of what he is and what is driving him really drives home what that character is standing for, and you see the disconnect really happen in that moment between Joseph Cotten and Orson Welles. And of course there is the climactic chase through the sewers, and just everything about that scene, the editing, the shots chosen, just the long shots of shadowy figures running through the sewer tunnels, and it's really some of the most quintessential film noir imagery that if you think of the words film noir, that is the type of thing you're thinking of. And a lot of that, what came after it, is inspired by this movie for sure. I mentioned remembering 3 things from my first viewing of the movie, one of which is the balloon cellar scene, which in my memory was much longer than it actually is in the movie, but again, just kind of an odd scene that happens in the middle of a pretty tense stakeout in the movie. And the other is the final shot of the movie, and that image was just burned in my brain for years, ever since I've seen it. And I forgot that was the final shot of the movie, but it's just such a beautifully framed shot. And again, in Joseph Cotton's book, he mentioned that there was no ending written for the script. Graham Greene, who wrote the screenplay, was also writing the novella at the same time. So when the director, Carol Reed, heard that the story was being finished in the novella version, he said, "Oh, let me know how that goes. I'd like to know for the end of the movie." But when they were shooting the scene in the cemetery, apparently Carol Reed went out and saw this tree-lined drive through the cemetery and said, "This is the ending. This is where we're going to shoot it." And then, not to spoil what happens, but Joseph Cotton describes in the book how he just is standing there, and he had no idea how long the shot was supposed to go, but he's just waiting and waiting and waiting until the one moment where the movie does end. Then finally the director yells cut. And that ending is so perfectly film noir as well. If you've seen other film noirs, you know they're not known for happy endings. This one, I think, has the happiest that it could after everything that's come before, and it feels right and it feels real, not maybe the sentimental Hollywood ending that we would maybe prefer, but it feels like the ending that would have happened. The moral center of this movie is definitely Holly Martin's, and it's him that sticks around for no other reason other than to find the truth and to discover what actually happened. And he feels that the police aren't doing all they could be doing to solve his friend's death. And as things change throughout the movie, he is still doing the right thing, but as all the information is revealed to him, he realizes that if he wants to continue doing the right thing, he's going to have to go against a friend. And you can see that struggle. And again, just to hype up Joseph Cotton's performance even more, that struggle is so real and felt as you're watching him. You don't know which way he's going to go, but he does make the right choices. I think that's a good message to take away from this movie, that really the whole story is him trying to get at the truth and do the right thing. And even when it's difficult, he still does hold to that. And he's clearly a man of strong character, even if he doesn't get all he wants at the end of the movie. And that's not usually the ending of film noirs. Film noirs usually focus on characters with darker motivations and not always with happy endings, but this character is one that is a morally upright person. So I can't say it enough, this movie is a genuine classic. If you haven't seen it, please do. If you're a fan of classic movies, or even if you're not, this might be a good avenue into getting into them. It's a really strong movie that never stops moving, and again, a great script, great performances, and if you have the chance, please watch it. So I just want to say thank you for watching my review. If you enjoyed it, then please check back to my channel, Hildebrand Productions. Adios for now.